When Emma Rose hires a fake boyfriend to save face at her company gala, she thinks she's found the perfect solution to her ex's cruel humiliation campaign. Gabriel Stone seems too good to be true, devastatingly handsome, perfectly charming, and surprisingly affordable at $800 for the evening. Asterisk. What if one secret could change everything you thought you knew about love? Tonight, we follow a journey full of surprises, heartbreak, and moments that will leave you speechless. Comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Don't miss a single twist. Let's go. Asterisk, the fluorescent lights of Sterling Communications buzzed overhead like angry wasps as Emma Rose stared at her computer screen, the marketing presentation blurring before her tired eyes. The break room erupted in familiar laughter that made her stomach clench with dread. Ryan's voice carried across the office like poison in the air. "She used to wait for me every morning with coffee," he said, his tone dripping with mock nostalgia. "Poor girl thought I was going to propose. Instead, I had to explain that I needed someone more mature, someone who could handle a real man." Emma's fingers tightened around her coffee mug until her knuckles turned white. 6 months. 6 months since their breakup, yet Ryan continued. His campaign of humiliation, with the dedication of a man possessed. The promotion to senior account manager had only made him worse. Strutting through the office like he owned every corner of her former dream job. "Emma, darling." Jessica Walsh materialized beside her desk like a vulture sensing carrion, her sympathetic smile sharp enough to cut glass. "I heard about the company gala next week. This must be so difficult knowing Ryan will be there with his new girlfriend." Emma forced her lips into what she hoped resembled a smile. "I'll be fine, Jessica. Thanks for your concern." "Of course, honey. I'm sure you'll find someone to take. Maybe one of your cousins could escort you." Jessica's voice was honey-coated arsenic. "It would be such a shame if you showed up alone again." After Jessica glided away on a cloud of malicious satisfaction, Emma buried her face in her hands. The Sterling Communications Gala was 3 days away, and the thought of walking into that ballroom alone while Ryan paraded his new conquest made her skin crawl with anticipated humiliation. That evening, in the claustrophobic silence of her studio apartment, Emma found herself staring at her laptop screen in disbelief. Escort services, companion agencies. The words felt foreign in her mouth as she whispered them to the empty room. Most of the profiles looked like amateur hour, fake smiles plastered over stock photos and prices that screamed desperation. Then she saw him. Gabriel Stone. The name was carved elegance. The photograph showed a man in his early 30s, with dark hair that caught the light and green eyes that seemed to see straight through the camera lens. His black suit was museum-quality perfection, and he stood with the casual confidence of someone who had never doubted his place in the world, a discreet companion for social events, experienced in corporate environments, available for dinners, galas, business functions. Rate $800 per evening. Emma's finger hovered over the contact button. $800 was more than her monthly car payment, but something about Gabriel's profile whispered of authenticity in a sea of obvious pretenders. She typed her message with trembling fingers. "Hello, Gabriel. I need an escort for my company's annual gala this Saturday evening. The event starts at 7 and will likely run until midnight. Are you available?" The response came 30 minutes later. "Hello, Emma. I'm available for Saturday evening. Before we proceed, I'd like to meet in person to discuss the details and ensure we're compatible for the event. Would tomorrow at 6 work for you? I'd suggest the Meridian Cafe on 5th Street. Emma stared at the screen. Most of the other profiles had simply requested payment details and an address. Gabriel wanted to meet first, like this was a legitimate business transaction, rather than her last desperate grasp at dignity. She typed back, "Tomorrow at 6 works perfectly." As she closed the laptop, Emma caught her reflection in the black screen. Her face looked pale and determined, like someone preparing to jump off a cliff. She had no idea that Gabriel Stone would turn out to be the most dangerous man she'd ever met, or that by Saturday night her entire world would be turned completely upside down. The Meridian Cafe breathed sophistication from its exposed brick walls to its gleaming espresso machine. Emma arrived 5 minutes early, clutching a manila folder like a lifeline and wearing her most professional blazer. She had spent the afternoon searching for any trace of Gabriel Stone online and found nothing beyond his companion profile, which should have been her first warning at exactly 6 o'clock. The cafe door opened, and Emma's breath caught in her throat like a trapped bird. Gabriel Stone was devastating in person. Tall and lean, with shoulders that belonged in architectural drawings, he moved through the cafe with the fluid grace of someone who had never questioned his right to command attention. His charcoal suit was clearly bespoke, molded to his frame with precision that spoke of serious money. When his green eyes found hers across the room, Emma felt something electric shoot down her spine. "Emma," he said, approaching her table with a smile that could have melted steel. "Yes, that's me." She stood to shake his hand, surprised by the firm warmth of his grip and the way her pulse jumped at the contact. Gabriel settled into the chair across from her with the easy confidence of someone completely comfortable in upscale environments. Emma noticed how the other patrons glanced his way, drawn to something indefinable about his presence. "Thank you for meeting me," Emma began, opening her folder with hands that barely trembled. "I have all the details about the event here. The Sterling Communications Annual Gala is this Saturday at the Grand Hyatt Hotel. Cocktails start at 7, followed by dinner and dancing." Gabriel nodded, his attention completely focused on her words. "And what exactly do you need from me?" It crept up Emma's neck. "I need you to pretend to be my boyfriend. Nothing inappropriate, just convincing enough that my colleagues believe we're together. There's someone at work who has been making my life difficult, and I want him to see that I've moved on." "An ex-boyfriend," Gabriel said. It wasn't a question. "Ryan Mitchell. He's been telling everyone that I'm still in love with him, that I can't get over our relationship. It's affecting my professional reputation." Gabriel leaned back in his chair, studying her face with an intensity that made her feel exposed. "Tell me about him." For 20 minutes, Emma found herself sharing more than she had intended. She told Gabriel about Ryan's manipulation tactics, his public humiliation campaigns, and how his rumors about her emotional instability had cost her a promotion she'd earned twice over. Gabriel listened without judgment, occasionally asking clarifying questions that showed he was processing every detail. "We need a believable backstory," Emma said, pulling out her notes. "I was thinking we could say we met at a coffee shop 3 months ago. You're a consultant who travels frequently, which explains why my colleagues haven't met you before." Gabriel's smile held secrets. "Consultant in what field?" "Investment consulting. You help small businesses develop growth strategies." "Interesting choice," Gabriel said, and Emma caught something that sounded like amusement in his voice. "And how did I win you over?" Emma felt her cheeks burn. "You're patient, thoughtful, and you don't try to control me like Ryan did. You respect my independence and career ambitions." "That sounds like a man worth dating," Gabriel said softly, his green eyes holding hers in a way that made her forget this was supposed to be pretend. They spent another hour crafting their fictional relationship, discussing Emma's job and what Gabriel could expect at the event, while throughout their conversation, details nagged at her. Gabriel knew about Sterling Communications' corporate structure without being told. When Emma mentioned CEO Jonathan Sterling would be attending, something shifted in Gabriel's expression. He asked specific questions about the company's recent ... merger activities that seemed too informed for casual curiosity, most unsettling of all. When the check arrived, Gabriel paid with a black American Express card. Emma caught a glimpse of his name etched in platinum letters, but the card itself was the kind reserved for people with unlimited credit limits. "Gabriel," Emma said as they prepared to leave, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Have you done this before?" "The escort service, I mean." Gabriel was quiet for a long moment, his green eyes unreadable. "Not exactly. It's more of a favor for a friend who runs the agency. I don't usually take clients." "Then why are you doing this?" "For what I'm paying you." Gabriel's. The smile was enigmatic enough to hide a dozen secrets. "Consider it a discounted rate for a worthy cause." As they stepped onto 5th Street, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that Gabriel was hiding something massive. His clothes were too expensive, his mannerisms too refined, and his knowledge too extensive for someone who occasionally worked as a paid companion. I'll pick you up at 6:30 on Saturday, Gabriel said, hailing a taxi for Emma, with the casual authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. You don't need my address yet? Along with any other details? You think I should know about the event? As Emma's taxi pulled away, she looked back to see Gabriel standing on the sidewalk, checking his phone with the posture of a man who commanded respect and attention. Even when he thought no one was watching, Emma spent the ride home trying to convince herself that her suspicions were just nerves, that Gabriel was simply a sophisticated man who had fallen on hard times. But deep in her chest, she knew there was more to Gabriel Stone than he was revealing. The question was whether his secrets would save her or destroy what remained of her professional reputation. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. And yet Emma dreaded it with every fiber of her being. Saturday evening arrived, with Emma's nerves stretched wire-thin. She chose a burgundy dress that hugged her curves without screaming for attention, paired with her mother's vintage pearl earrings and a clutch that cost more than she cared to admit. At exactly 6:30, her doorbell rang with the precision of an atomic clock. Emma opened the door and nearly forgot how to breathe. Gabriel stood there in a midnight black tuxedo that looked like it had been crafted by angels and tailored by gods. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and he carried himself with the kind of presence that made people stop mid-conversation and stare. A single white rose rested in his hand like a promise. You look beautiful, he said, offering her the flower with a smile that could have powered the city. Thank you. You look like you stepped out of a magazine cover. Gabriel helped her with her coat, his fingers brushing her shoulders in a way that sent electricity racing through her bloodstream. Shall we make Ryan Mitchell regret ever letting you go? The ride to the Grand Hyatt passed in a blur of surprising comfort. Gabriel asked thoughtful questions about her work, her dreams, her family. Emma found herself sharing stories she hadn't told anyone in years. There was something about Gabriel that made her feel safe, understood, like she could trust him with her most guarded secrets. The Grand Hyatt's ballroom had been transformed into something from a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light. Over round tables draped in cream silk, the city's skyline glittered through floor-to-ceiling windows like scattered diamonds. Soft jazz music filled the air with sophisticated elegance. Emma immediately spotted Ryan near the bar, wearing his best suit and holding court with colleagues from the sales department. He looked confident, smug, exactly as she had expected. Her stomach twisted with familiar dread. There he is, Emma whispered to Gabriel. Gabriel followed her gaze and nodded once. Ready. They walked into the ballroom together, and Emma noticed heads turning like sunflowers following the sun. Gabriel commanded attention without trying. His posture was perfect, his stride confident, and he radiated the kind of success that people naturally gravitated toward. Emma, Rebecca Chen from accounting, appeared beside them, practically glowing with curiosity. You look stunning. And who is this handsome gentleman? Rebecca, this is Gabriel, my boyfriend. Gabriel, this is Rebecca from accounting. Gabriel extended his hand with genuine warmth that seemed to light up the room. Pleasure to meet you, Rebecca. Emma speaks about her colleagues with such fondness. Rebecca practically melted. How long have you two been together? 3 months, Gabriel answered smoothly, his eyes finding Emma's with an intensity that made her heart stutter, though it feels like much longer. When you meet the right person, time becomes irrelevant. The way Gabriel looked at her when he said it made the lie feel dangerously close to truth. They mingled through the crowd like they had been doing it for years. Emma was amazed at how naturally Gabriel fit in. He discussed market trends with the finance team with casual expertise, shared travel stories with the international division. That sounded like first-hand experience, and even impressed the creative department with his knowledge of digital marketing. Strategies that seemed far too current for someone who claimed to work with small businesses. Your boyfriend is quite impressive, said a voice behind them. Emma turned to see Jonathan Sterling, the company's CEO, approaching with a brandy in his hand and sharp interest in his eyes. Gabriel, isn't it? Sterling continued, extending his hand. Emma felt Gabriel tense slightly beside her, like a predator suddenly aware of being hunted. Yes, sir. Gabriel Stone. Jonathan's eyes sharpened with recognition. Stone. The name sounds familiar. What line of work are you in? Investment. Consulting. I help companies optimize their portfolios and identify growth opportunities. Fascinating. We should talk sometime. Sterling Communications is always looking for fresh perspectives on investment strategies. Gabriel smiled politely, but Emma noticed the smile didn't reach his eyes. I would be honored, Mr. Sterling.
As
Jonathan walked away. Emma noticed Gabriel had changed. The relaxed, charming companion had been replaced by someone more guarded, more calculating. Like he was playing a game where the rules had suddenly shifted. The confrontation Emma had been dreading finally came during dinner. Ryan approached their table with a glass of whiskey in his hand and trouble written across his face like a declaration of war. Emma, you look lovely tonight, Ryan said, completely ignoring Gabriel's presence. I was hoping we could dance. For old time's sake, Emma felt Gabriel's hand find hers under the table. The touch was warm, reassuring, like an anchor in a storm. I'm here with my boyfriend, Ryan. I'm not interested in dancing with you. Ryan finally looked at Gabriel, sizing him up like a competitor evaluating the opposition. And you are? Gabriel stood to shake Ryan's hand, unfolding to his full height. With fluid grace, he was taller than Ryan by several inches, and his grip was firm enough to make Ryan wince slightly. Gabriel Stone. So Gabriel, what do you do for a living? Investment consulting. I help businesses identify growth opportunities and optimize their financial strategies. Gabriel's voice was smooth as silk and twice as dangerous. Ryan's smile turned predatory. That sounds lucrative. Where did you two meet? Emma opened her mouth to deliver their rehearsed story, but Gabriel spoke first. Actually, we met through mutual friends in the financial sector. Emma's insights into market psychology are quite remarkable. It wasn't their agreed-upon story. Emma felt her pulse quicken, but Gabriel squeezed her hand gently under the table. Market psychology, Ryan repeated, his voice dripping skepticism. That's interesting considering Emma works in marketing, not finance. Gabriel's smile was sharp enough to cut diamonds. You'd be surprised how much overlap there is between understanding consumer behavior and predicting market trends. Emma has a natural gift for reading people. The way Gabriel looked at Ryan when he said it made the words sound like a threat wrapped in silk. Ryan's face flushed red, and Emma realized Gabriel had just called him predictable without saying it outright. The tension at the table was thick enough to slice with a knife. Well, Ryan said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger, I hope you know what you're getting into, Gabriel. Emma can be quite challenging when she doesn't get her way. Gabriel stood up so quickly that his chair scraped against the floor. For a moment, Emma thought he might actually hit Ryan. Instead, Gabriel smiled with the kind of cold politeness that was somehow more threatening than any physical violence. Actually, Ryan, I find Emma's strength refreshing. It takes a real man to appreciate a woman who knows her own worth. The insult was delivered so smoothly that it took Ryan a moment to process it. When he did, his face turned purple with rage. Excuse me, Ryan said through gritted teeth, and stalked away from the table like a wounded animal. Gabriel sat back down, and Emma realized her hands were shaking. That was incredible, she whispered. I've never seen anyone shut him down like that. Gabriel's green eyes were unreadable. He won't bother you again tonight. But as Emma looked across the ballroom, she saw Ryan talking urgently to Jonathan Sterling, both men glancing in their direction with expressions that made her blood run cold. Whatever Gabriel had started, Emma had the sinking feeling it was far from over. The dance floor had filled with swaying couples, but Emma couldn't focus on the music. Across the ballroom, she watched Ryan lean closer to Jonathan Sterling, their conversation growing more animated with each passing minute. Both men kept glancing toward her table with expressions that made her skin crawl with dread. They're planning something, Emma whispered to Gabriel, who was watching the exchange with the predatory focus of a hawk. Let them plan, Gabriel said, but his jaw was tight with tension. We should dance. Gabriel led her onto the floor with the natural grace of someone who had clearly spent years learning proper ballroom technique. His hands settled on her waist with perfect positioning, and when they began to move, Emma felt like she was floating. He spun her effortlessly through complex steps that should have been impossible without practice. Where did you learn to dance? Like this? Emma asked, breathless from more than just the movement. Gabriel's smile was enigmatic. Boarding school requirements? Cotillion classes were mandatory. Another piece that didn't fit. Investment consultants didn't usually attend boarding schools with mandatory cotillion classes. Emma was about to press for more details when she noticed Ryan and Jonathan Sterling walking purposefully toward the dance floor. Gabriel Sterling called out, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed immediately. "Might I have a word?" Gabriel's hand tightened almost imperceptibly on Emma's waist. "Of course, Mr. Sterling." They moved to a quieter corner near the floor-to-ceiling windows. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs as she watched. Sterling's expression shifted from polite interest to something much more dangerous. "Ryan here has been telling me interesting things about you, Gabriel," Sterling began, his voice deceptively casual. "He seems to think there's something unusual about your background." Gabriel's posture remained relaxed, but Emma could feel the tension radiating from him like heat. "I'm not sure what you mean." Ryan stepped forward with a triumphant smirk. "I did some research during dinner, called a few contacts in the investment world. Funny thing is, nobody's ever heard of a Gabriel Stone who works in investment consulting." Emma's blood turned to ice water. The ballroom suddenly felt like it was tilting sideways. Sterling's eyes were laser-focused on Gabriel. In fact, the only Gabriel Stone I could find is Gabriel Stone of Stone Enterprises. You know, the billionaire who's been quietly acquiring companies across the Northeast? The same Gabriel Stone whose family owns a significant stake in Sterling Communications? Right. Words hit Emma like a physical blow. She stared at Gabriel, waiting for him to deny it, to laugh, and explain the misunderstanding. Instead, Gabriel straightened to his full height, and Emma watched as he transformed before her eyes. The charming companion disappeared, replaced by someone who radiated power and authority like a force of nature. "Congratulations, Mr. Sterling," Gabriel said, his voice carrying a new edge of command. "Your research skills are impressive." Emma felt the world tilt completely off its axis. "You're a billionaire," she whispered, the words barely escaping her throat. Gabriel turned to her, and for the first time since she'd met him, his green eyes held something that looked almost like regret.
"Emma."
"I can explain." "Explain what?" Voice was rising, drawing attention from nearby couples. "That you've been lying to me since the moment we met. You made me think I was paying you $800 to pretend to be my boyfriend, when you could probably buy this entire hotel with your pocket change." Ryan was practically glowing with malicious satisfaction. "Looks like your fake boyfriend isn't what he seemed." "Emma?" Just like always, you couldn't tell a genuine man from a fraud. Gabriel's head snapped toward Ryan with predatory speed. "Be very careful about what you say next." "Gabriel," Sterling interrupted, his tone now carrying the weight of serious business. "Perhaps we should discuss why you're really here, because I find it hard to believe that Gabriel Stone needs to hire himself out as an escort." The final word hung in the air like a death sentence. Emma felt every eye in their corner of the ballroom turn toward them. Humiliation she had been trying so desperately to avoid crashed over her in waves. Gabriel's jaw tightened. "This conversation is over." "Actually, it's not," Sterling said, pulling out his phone, "because I just received a very interesting call from my board of directors. It seems Stone Enterprises has been quietly purchasing Sterling Communications stock for months. Combined with what your family already owns, you're very close to having controlling interest in my company." Emma's knees nearly buckled. "You're trying to take over my company?" Gabriel looked at her with something that might have been pain. "Emma, it's not what you think." "Then what is it?" she demanded, her voice cracking with betrayal. "Were you using me to get information? Was this all some elaborate corporate espionage scheme?" "No," Gabriel said firmly, reaching for her hand. "Emma, listen to me." She stepped back like he'd slapped her. Don't you dare touch me. I trusted you. I told you things about my work, my colleagues, my entire life, and you were planning to destroy it all along." "I wasn't planning anything," Gabriel said, desperation creeping into his voice. "I saw your profile on that website by accident. My assistant uses that agency to find suitable companions for business events. When I saw your message, saw how desperate you were to avoid humiliation, I couldn't let some stranger take advantage of you. So you decided to take advantage of me yourself? Emma's voice was getting louder, drawing more attention. Ah, this is so much worse than anything Ryan ever did to me. Gabriel's face went white. Emma, please. Let me explain privately. Things you don't understand. I understand perfectly, Emma said, backing toward the ballroom entrance. I understand that I'm the biggest fool in this room. I understand that you've been laughing at me this entire time. It's not true, Gabriel said, following her. Wait. But Emma was already running, pushing through the crowd of curious onlookers, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she fled toward the exit. Behind her, she could hear Gabriel calling her name, but she didn't stop. The humiliation was complete, total, and public, as the hotel doors closed behind her. Emma realized that Gabriel Stone hadn't saved her from disaster. He had become the disaster, and she had walked straight into it with her eyes wide open. The worst part was that somewhere in the wreckage of her dignity, she was still falling in love with him. Emma sat in her apartment at 3 a.m. Still wearing her burgundy dress, staring at her laptop screen through tears she refused to let fall. The internet had confirmed her worst fears. Gabriel Stone wasn't just wealthy. He was obscenely, impossibly rich. Stone Enterprises owned everything from tech companies to real estate empires. His net worth was estimated in the billions. She had been completely, utterly played. Her phone had been ringing nonstop since she'd fled the hotel. Gabriel's name appeared on the screen again, and this time she answered. What could you possibly have to say to me? Her voice was hoarse from crying. Double quotes, Emma, please, give me 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes to explain. Explain what? How you manipulated me. How you lied about everything. Gabriel's voice was raw with desperation. I lied about my identity, yes. But nothing else was a lie. Not the way I felt when I met you. Not the way you made me feel like I was worth something beyond my bank account. Not the fact that I'm falling in love with you. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Don't you dare use that word. You don't know what love means? I know it means wanting to protect you from people like Ryan Mitchell. I know it means being willing to give up everything to prove you matter more than money. Before Emma could respond, her apartment building's buzzer rang. She looked out her window and saw Gabriel standing on the sidewalk in his ruined tuxedo. Looking up at her window like a man preparing for execution. Let me come up, he said through the phone. Please, just let me explain, and then I'll leave you alone forever, if that's what you want. Against her better judgment, Emma buzzed him. Gabriel appeared at her door looking like he'd been through a war. His bow tie was gone, his shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, and his usually perfect hair was disheveled. But his green eyes still held that intensity that had captured her from the first moment they met. You have 5 minutes, Emma said, not. Letting him pass the threshold, Gabriel ran a hand through his hair, searching for words. My father built Stone Enterprises from nothing. When he died 3 years ago, I inherited an empire I never wanted. Every person I meet sees dollar signs before they see me. Every relationship is transactional. I've been used, manipulated, and betrayed by people who claimed to love me, but only loved what I could give them. Emma crossed her arms, trying to ignore the pain in his voice. So you decided to manipulate someone else? No. I decided to disappear. I've been trying to live a normal life for months, using fake identities, cash payments, anything to experience what it's like to be seen as just a person. That escort website was my assistant's idea for finding suitable companions for business events. When I saw your message, I saw something real. Someone genuine who was hurting and needed help. You saw someone desperate enough to pay for companionship. Someone you could manipulate. Gabriel stepped closer, his eyes blazing with emotion. I saw someone brave enough to fight for herself. Someone who refused to let a pathetic man like Ryan destroy her dignity. I saw someone worth protecting. By lying to me? By trying to give you what you needed without making you feel like charity. Emma, you're the first person in 3 years who's talked to me like I'm human. Who's shared their dreams, their fears, their authentic self, without calculating what they could get in return. Emma felt her resolve wavering, but the humiliation was too fresh. What about Sterling Communications? Were you planning to fire me after you took it over? Gabriel's laugh was bitter. Sterling Communications is hemorrhaging money. The board approached my company 6 months ago, begging us to invest. Your CEO has been cooking the books to hide how badly the company is failing. I've been buying stock to keep the company afloat, not to take it over. Emma stared at him. What are you saying? I'm saying Sterling Communications will be bankrupt within 6 months without significant investment. I'm saying I was trying to save your job, not destroy it. The words hit Emma like a physical blow. The company is failing. Gabriel nodded grimly. Sterling has been embezzling money to fund his gambling addiction. The merger activities I asked about at the cafe? I was trying to figure out how bad the situation was before I committed more resources to saving the company. Emma sank in too, her chair overwhelmed. So everything I've been fighting for, my career, my reputation, my future at Sterling Communications, it's all worthless. Gabriel knelt in front of her, his hands hovering near hers, but not quite touching. Not worthless. You're talented, intelligent, and capable. You deserve better than working for a man who's stealing from his employees' pension fund. Emma looked up at him, seeing something raw and vulnerable in his expression. Why should I believe you? How do I know this isn't just another lie? Gabriel pulled out his phone and opened his email. Because tomorrow morning Sterling Communications Board of Directors will receive a formal offer from Stone Enterprises. We're offering to buy the company, pay off all debts, honor all employee contracts, and establish a new management structure. Your name is on the list of recommended promotions to senior management. Emma stared at the screen, seeing her name. In black and white, you were going to promote me? You earned it? You've been doing senior level work for junior level pay while men like Ryan get rewarded for mediocrity? That changes now. Emma felt tears threatening again, but for different reasons this time. Gabriel, I can't accept this. It feels like charity. Gabriel's hands finally touched hers, warm and gentle. It's not charity, it's justice. And Emma, there's something else you need to know. She looked up at him, afraid of what he might say. Next, I'm walking away from it all. Stone Enterprises, the money, the inheritance. I'm establishing a trust to manage the business interests and taking only enough to live comfortably. I'm tired of being defined by what I own instead of who I am. Emma's eyes widened. You're giving up billions of dollars? Gabriel's smile was soft and genuine. I'm choosing a life worth living. I'm choosing to be the man you thought I was at that cafe. I'm choosing love over money. Emma stared at him, seeing the truth in his eyes. This broken, wealthy, complicated man was willing to sacrifice everything for the chance at something real with her. Gabriel, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I know I hurt you. I know I lied and manipulated the situation. But Emma, everything I felt for you was real. Every moment we spent together, every word I said about respecting your strength and intelligence and independence, that was the truth. You made me remember who I wanted to be. Emma reached up and touched his face, feeling the scratch of stubble and the warmth of skin. You're really giving it all up? I already have. Papers were signed an hour ago. Emma rose. I'm just Gabriel Stone now. No empire, no billions. Just a man who's desperately in love with the most remarkable woman he's ever met. Emma searched his eyes and found no deception, only hope and fear and love so deep it took her breath away. What happens now? She whispered. Gabriel's. The smile was radiant. Now, we find out if love is enough. If two broken people can build something beautiful together. If Gabriel Stone, former billionaire, is worthy of Emma Rose, the woman who saved his soul. Emma leaned forward and kissed him, tasting tears and hope and the promise of tomorrow. When they broke apart, she was smiling through her tears. I guess we'll find out together, she said. Gabriel pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Outside her apartment window, the city lights glittered like possibilities, and for the first time in years, Emma felt like she was exactly where she belonged. I love you, Gabriel whispered against her hair. I love you too, Emma whispered back, and meant it with every fiber of her being. They had found each other in the most impossible circumstances, built on lies that became truth and pretense that became reality. Their love story would never be simple or easy, but it would be theirs, and that was enough. The end.